Welcome to Capital Catch-Up, your guide to what is happening in Congress. I am Victor.
And I am Leni. Today, we are walking through a series of newly introduced bills, major executive nominations, and the latest floor proceedings. Let us start with a pair of healthcare bills designed to change how everyday Americans receive and pay for medical care.
Yes, let us look at House Resolution 4509, known as the NOPAIN, for Veterans Act. This bipartisan bill aims to expand non-opioid pain management options for veterans. Under this bill, the Department of Veterans Affairs must add FDA-approved non-opioid pain management drugs and biological products to its national formulary and drug standardization list.
They have to do this within 1 year of these treatments becoming eligible for specific federal payment programs, and the VA must implement the changes within 90 days of the bill passing. One crucial detail is that the bill explicitly prohibits using the Cost of War Toxic Exposures Fund for these purposes. This is designed to modernize healthcare for veterans recovering from surgeries or managing regional pain without relying so heavily on opioids.
Another major piece of health legislation is Senate Bill 5004, the Cancer Drug Parity Act of 2026. Right now, many patients face a significant financial gap between oral cancer medications they take at home and treatments administered intravenously or via injection at a clinic. Senate Bill 5004 amends the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974 to require group health plans to make cost-sharing terms for oral anti-cancer drugs no less favorable than those for IV or injected treatments.
This means insurers cannot charge higher out-of-pocket costs for oral medications, and they are prohibited from using benefit reclassifications to bypass this rule. The bill also tasks the Government Accountability Office with studying the law's impact on patient costs within 2 years.
Sticking with health costs, House Resolution 8684, the Transparency and Billing Act of 2026, targets deceptive billing practices. It requires hospitals to use unique health identifiers for any services provided at off-campus outpatient departments.
That is a big deal, because insurance plans and group health plans would be completely barred from paying claims for these off-campus services unless the hospital includes that specific identifier. The Secretary of Labor would have the power to hand out civil monetary penalties to hospitals that do not comply. It is all about making sure patients and insurers know exactly where care was delivered.
Now let us talk about support for disabled Americans. We have two bills addressing the Social Security system. First is House Resolution 8884, the Removing Barriers to Work for Disabled Americans Act. This bill extends the Social Security Administration's authority to run demonstration projects for its disability insurance program through December 31st, 2031.
These projects test new ways to help disabled individuals return to work. Crucially, the bill guarantees that a participant's total income will not be reduced because of their involvement in these experiments. It also updates administrative procedures, clarifies that funding comes from the Social Security Trust funds, and sets up new evaluation metrics starting January 1st, 2027.
We actually saw this bill debated on the House floor on July 23, 2026. Proponents called it a bipartisan solution that helps disabled Americans achieve the dignity of work, while opponents expressed concern that it lacks sufficient guardrails and could jeopardize benefits.
That debate connects well with Senate Bill 5006, the Work Without Worry Act of 2026. This bill aims to remove financial barriers for childhood disability beneficiaries who want to work. It amends the Social Security Act to allow individuals to qualify for child insurance benefits even if they were not continuously disabled or if they engaged in substantial work before reaching age 22. It streamlines the application so they get the highest eligible benefit amount, whether through child's, disability, or old age insurance.
Let us move over to technology and biosecurity. House Bill 3029, the Nucleic Acid Standards for Biosecurity Act, authorizes $5 million annually from 2027 through 2031. It directs the National Institute of Standards and Technology to establish technical standards and best practices for screening synthetic genes. This is meant to manage the biosecurity risks of artificial intelligence in synthetic biology and secure sequence of concern databases.
Also dealing with the National Institute of Standards and Technology is Senate Bill 5047, the Artificial Intelligence Physical Systems Coordination Act of 2026. This bill would create a working group of 12 to 20 experts from industry, academia, and civil society to study safety and security risks where AI, robotics, sensors, and digital modeling overlap. It is a non-regulatory, consultative approach to help policymakers navigate autonomous physical systems without imposing new mandates on private companies.
On the industrial side, House Resolution 6055, the Semi-Investment Act, seeks to strengthen the domestic semiconductor industry. It extends the Advanced Manufacturing Investment Tax Credit from 2026 to 2031 and expands the definition of eligible facilities to include producers of essential materials, like specialized chemicals, gases, and substrates used in chip manufacturing.
Shifting to energy and public lands, Senate Bill 5039, the License to Drill Act, extends the federal government's authority to collect oil and gas drilling permit fees through fiscal year 2037. This keeps the Bureau of Land Management's Permit Processing Improvement Fund funded for the next decade.
Meanwhile, Senate Bill 5048, the Hydropower Licensing Affordability Act, aims to streamline the licensing process for hydropower plants. It narrows federal authority over licensing conditions and fishway prescriptions, requiring that these mandates be specifically tied to mitigating the direct adverse effects caused by a project.
And in a very specific land transfer, House Bill 1829, the Apache County and Navajo County Conveyance Act of 2026, allows the Secretary of Agriculture to transfer federal land in the Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest to Navajo and Apache counties in Arizona. This land is strictly for expanding the Pinedale and Alpine cemeteries. The counties have to pay for the surveys and environmental analyses, and if the land is used for anything else, ownership goes back to the federal government.
We also have a tax bill to cover. House Resolution 8672, introduced by Representatives Yakim and Titus, would amend the tax code to let consumers deduct loan interest payments on recreational vehicles, like trailers and campers, by classifying them as qualified passenger vehicles, starting after December 31, 2025.
In transportation safety, House Resolution 5800, the Safe Drivers Act, would require commercial driver's license applicants to demonstrate English language proficiency. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration would develop a standardized test, and states that fail to administer it could lose federal highway funds.
On elections, Senate Bill 5001, the Ballots by Election Day Act, would require all ballots to be received by election officials by the close of polls on Election Day, starting in 2027. The only exception would be for uniformed services and overseas voters.
And Senate Bill 5044, the Honoring the Victims of Communist China's Tyranny Act, sponsored by Senators Rick Scott and Marsha Blackburn, directs the Secretary of State to build a memorial in Washington, D.C. within 2 years to honor victims of persecution under the Chinese Communist Party. It limits federal spending to $500,000 and encourages private funding.
Let us do a quick run-through of the major nominations sent to the Senate. For key financial and administrative roles, we have Irving Dennis nominated as Chief Financial Officer for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Shiprakash Kothari is nominated as an Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Aaron Brown as an Undersecretary of the Treasury, and Francis Brooke as Deputy Secretary of the Treasury.
We also have George McMaster nominated as an Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Christopher Phelan to chair the Council of Economic Advisors, Abby Warren as an Assistant Secretary of Commerce, and John Cruz to join the National Credit Union Administration Board. Brian Johnson is nominated to lead the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection for a 5-year term, and John Breslow has been nominated as Ambassador to Cyprus.
For the federal judiciary, Daniel Mack Traynor is nominated for the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, and Daniel Desmond Domenico is nominated for the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Antonio Pozos is nominated to be a district judge for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, and Christopher Nasser is nominated as the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Oklahoma.
Let us close with some interesting moments from the Congressional Daily Records. On July 22, 2026, the House held tributes for several community figures, including the 20th anniversary of the Morgan County Boys and Girls Club and the work of the newspaper The Hudson Independent. They also expressed bipartisan grief for Provo Fire Captain Spencer Long, who died in a flash flood.
On the policy side, members debated federal water usage in New Mexico, celebrated the reversal of California's gas-powered vehicle ban, and argued over military funding. The session also noted a subpoena served to Representative Sarah Jacobs and marked the start of proceedings for the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2027.
On July 23rd, the floor was dominated by the debate over House Resolution 8884, but also included statements on religious violence in Nigeria and a celebration of Ohio's economic ranking.
Looking ahead, listeners should keep an eye on the progress of the National Defense Authorization Act, the upcoming Senate confirmation hearings for the Treasury and judicial nominees, and whether the House moves forward with the work programs and the Removing Barriers to Work for Disabled Americans Act.
That is all for this episode of Capital Catch-Up. We will see you next time.